Welcome to Bonnie's Beat. I'm your host, Bonnie Squires. We're coming to you from the studios, Radnor Studio 21 in the heart of downtown Wayne. And as you can see, the lights are on, the heat's on, so we're doing much better now. We like to bring you news about politics and government, academia, charitable events, arts and culture. But today I've got one of my heroes who took time out from a frantic schedule to come to the studio. His name is Dave Schrader, and he's in charge of communications for the Red Cross. And I don't think he's gotten sleep for a while. But anyway, Dave, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's always great to see you, always great to be on.
Oh, well, we saw a lot of Dave Schrader on television. If you moved to somebody's house who had power, you would see Dave reporting on where the shelters were, where you could go for warmth, where you go for food, where you could charge your cell phone, where you could get Wi-Fi, etc.
Yeah, the primary job is making sure people know where to go. That's my primary gig, and making sure that people are safe and have a safe place to go.
How many warming shelters did you have to set up for the Red Cross in this region?
A couple different numbers there. The warming shelters, we had about 9. That was only for a couple of hours. That's basically a place to go just to get warm, and then you would go home. But as that first day wore on, we decided we needed to open up shelters, so we made them overnight. So those 9 of them turned into 6 shelters that became overnight shelters, and they went on for several days.
For those who weren't lucky enough, like you and me, to have relatives who still had power so we could go sleep at their houses or their apartments, how many people made use of the shelters?
Total, our highest number was about 275 over the 6 shelters.
Wow.
And then the number would start. Actually, the first night was actually one of the lowest nights. The second night and third nights were the highest. We had 185 at our Westchester University shelter.
185, that's a lot of mouths to feed.
There was a lot of mouths to feed.
Where'd the food come from?
The food came from Red Cross. The state also helped out the Department of Emergency Management and Salvation Army. A couple of other charity organizations would come in and help us out with food there as well. So what we did was we had 3 open initially in Chester County, and then we consolidated those and we created the one mega shelter so they could all go there. And actually we were planning for up to 1,200 people. That's the reason the Westchester location was selected, is that we didn't know how long it was going to go on. We didn't know what the demand would be for shelter. We expected it actually to be higher, but thankfully it wasn't. A lot of people either found places to go or they toughened it out at home, which we prefer they didn't do. We actually try to get that message out, so don't tough it out at home. But folks still chose to do so, and thankfully everything wound up okay.
A lot of people who have fireplaces decided to stay home, like my next door neighbor, but after one night, she said it was so bitter cold in her house, unless you slept right in front of the fireplace. So she went and stayed at a girlfriend's house. We stayed at my mother's apartment. You stayed at your mother's.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing is I didn't have Wi-Fi, and it's just amazing how much you depend upon the internet in situations like this.
Oh, and my job, that's doubly hard. Thankfully, I was out at the shelters. They had Wi-Fi. I have a personal MiFi that I carry with me too, just in case. So yeah,
what's a MiFi?
It's like a little box. It's just a portable hotspot in essence, is all it is.
That's
and
amazing.
I have it with me wherever I go, because you never know. And yeah, you take things like that for granted. How quickly you realize how much you depend on power, Wi-Fi. Something as simple as having an internet service or telephone, even sometimes.
Yes.
Even our phone didn't work because it was connected to the electricity.
I never knew that before. I always keep an old phone in my kitchen that's a landline. All the other landlines that we have are portables in a cradle, and the cradle needs electricity. So when we left, when all the power went out and the heat stopped working and it got really cold in our house on Wednesday, I still had a landline. When we came back to check on the cats Thursday, no dial tone. Friday, no dial tone. So I called Verizon, and they explained that there's some kind of a battery inside the landline. Mm-hmm. It's either inside the phone or it's on the line outside, but that needs to be charged with electricity. Yeah. And the staff person at Verizon said it will work for about 6 hours. and then that's it. It won't work anymore until it's recharged.
This is a great lesson about being prepared, because you just never know. I mean, we knew this storm was coming, but you can't really grasp how bad it's going to be until it actually hits.
Well,
so it's a great lesson on being prepared. Make sure you have a couple of days worth of food, some non-perishable food items. You have an electric can opener as opposed to one that you would plug into your wall, just so you can open up those cans of food and things like that. A hand crank one, and a battery-powered radio.
I just bought a battery-powered radio, fortunately, so we had that.
You never know. Those make a huge difference, because being in touch, if you were relying totally on the internet and you didn't have a smartphone, or your smartphone died on you because it ran out of power, you had no idea what was going on.
That's
so those
right.
are the kind of things that you need to think about, make those kind of preparations. If you weren't prepared this time, this is a good wake-up call to be prepared for next time.
One of my friends that was without power for like 6 days just emailed me this morning that she had purchased a generator after a few days. But I'm not sure what a generator is, how that runs, where you put it. You can't bring it in the house.
Well, here's a pretty good lesson. Number one, generators are excellent sources of electricity when you have a power outage. They can be used to charge up your refrigerator, for example, for a certain amount of time. They can help maybe run some minor appliances. It's not a long-term solution, but you have to keep refilling it with gas. But the most important thing to remember is a generator.
Refill with gas. What does that mean?
They're gas-powered, gasoline. Like,
gasoline?
Yes.
So you go to a gas station
fill
and
it up.
you have to have
just like a lawnmower, like a lawnmower can type deal, where you fill it up
Yeah.
and you pour it in. That's basically how it works. But the most important thing to realize about a generator is you need to have it outside. A lot of people make the mistake of putting it inside. That is a recipe for, that's a tragedy right there, because it can create carbon monoxide. And so if you have one, you need to make sure it is outside in a well-ventilated area. Not the garage that's attached to your house is not okay, because it can still come into your house. If the garage is not attached to your house, that's a different story. You could put it in the garage potentially.
But how do you connect the generator to your refrigerator, or what?
It basically plugs into the generator. Your refrigerator plugs in. Instead of plugging into the wall, it plugs into the generator.
Then you have to move the refrigerator and pull it.
Well, it's complicated. You have
It's very
cords,
complicated.
but it's better. I mean, people want to stay home and they want to have some level of power. It can be a temporary fix.
Oh, I'm not going to buy a generator.
In that case, that's why shelters are open, because not everyone has a generator. Not everyone's comfortable with that.
Yes.
That's why the Red Cross and our partner organizations open shelters for people in that exact situation. So you know what? I want someplace warm. I don't have a generator. This is where I'm going. It's not ideal, obviously, but you get a cot, you get a warm blanket, pillows, you get 3 meals a day, and it's warm. And you can charge up your phone, and you can just relax and be out of the cold.
Now, how did you find out that you were needed and it was an emergency situation? Because we had a major snowstorm January 2nd. I flew home from Florida, unfortunately, into that first blizzard that was 12 inches that we thought was horrible. But we didn't have trees falling down everywhere, pulling down power lines until, the most recent storm. And where were you when you got the call from Judge Renee Hughes? Dave, it's a disaster. We need.
Well, we actually knew about it a little bit ahead of time, where we sort of already had preparations. I had the day off and was planning on the day off on Thursday, and I canceled that in advance because we were like, we need all hands on deck. So we kind of knew that something was going to happen. We needed to be prepared. It just basically, we get the go from the local governments, the county. In each county has an Office of Emergency Management, and they're the ones who give us a direction. Say, this is where we want the shelters to be. We need the Red Cross to support them. So there were lots of shelters open, but not all of them were Red Cross shelters. We can't possibly support because every single town, every single place would want one. We can't support them all. So we take the direction from the Office of Emergency Management. They will assign the location, and we staff it.
What about Delaware County? Did you have a Red Cross
We had
shelter
a couple. We had the Springfield Township Municipal Building was where we had a warming station, and then they transferred that over to the Radnor Municipal Township Building. But there wasn't a huge demand for it, so we supplied, and they didn't want it to be overnight necessarily. So we stood down, but we did supply cots and blankets to a couple local municipality ones in Radnor Township. Delaware County, the demand wasn't that high.
Except for Villanova University, where like 600 students were stranded. They couldn't go home, or there was no place for them to go. And that was really shocking that Villanova University had no power for like, what, 3 days?
A couple days. And again, there was situations where the counties, they gave us a direction. Okay, we want the Red Cross to be here. And then this is where, if residents need a place to go, this is a sanctioned Red Cross facility that the county has authorized. And other places are free to open up their own, but they wouldn't necessarily be Red Cross shelters. And we could support them with blankets and things like that, but not necessarily staff, because we can't man every single one.
How many blankets did you give out in the course of this most recent
It's kind of hard to say.
disaster?
We're probably upwards of 1,000, probably 1,200, because you probably 2 to 3 per person over the course of the 3 or 4 days, and you had, 200, 300 people over the course of that time we're helping out. So you're looking at probably 1,000, 1,100 blankets. Plus we gave some to pets, and people brought their pets in, we give them to them as well.
Yeah, I felt.
And the blankets are really, not only are they practical, very important way of thinking, there's also symbolic that say, hey, the Red Cross is there to help you out.
Yeah, it's
and
got Red Crosses
got
all over it.
And there's no mistaking that it's our blankets. So yeah, it's it's valuable. It may seem like a small thing, but it can really mean a big to a lot of people.
After our electricity came on, which meant the heat was coming on that Saturday, we waited a few hours till we moved out of my mother's apartment and went back home. I wore like 3 different tracksuit jackets, one on top of the other, and my coat for hours because the house was registering 50 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that was freezing cold. I can't begin to tell you. The cats were very happy to have their mommy and daddy home so they could sleep on us and be nice and warm that night. But they did okay. I had a very heavy blanket that I left downstairs on a sofa that they curled up in, and then they slept in our bed at night when we weren't there. Wasn't the same,
right,
but they kept each other warm, the 2 cats, anyway.
Yeah, and that's we see that a lot. The temperature, it takes a long time for it to warm up. So that's why even when power was still on, people were still staying in the shelters because it just takes 3 or 4, sometimes even a full day for it really to get back up and running.
Well, I slept with a tracksuit over my pajamas and 2 quilts. It was so cold that night after like 8 hours of electricity and heat, and it wasn't until like a day and a half later that I could breathe in my house again. So how do you decide where to go? Or does...
Well, the Red Cross works with the various county emergency management agencies, and we pinpoint locations that are typical, that are either normally get flooded out, for example, or these are areas that we usually see a demand for our services. So they're pinpointed sort of in advance. And okay, this school we're going to use that school, we're going to use that school, we're going to use that school. So we already have those identified. They all have showers, they all have backup generators, they have a gymnasium that's big enough, have a cafeteria we can use. They have a place we can put pets. Those are all things we factor into making the decision well in advance. And then when the actual time comes, so okay, we go down the list and say, the county will say, that's the ideal spot. We're going to put it at that school. We're going to put it at that community center. And then the Red Cross just responds. That's how we also position our supplies, that we put our trailer of cots and blankets in a certain spot that we know is prone to, the need is great usually there. Now it can be a challenge because the roads were blocked, trees were down, power lines. So the positioning kind of didn't, didn't necessarily be that helpful because our normal path was blocked anyway. But that's kind of how it works.
How many people did you have to deploy, including staff and volunteers? I assume you needed a lot of volunteers to help with this distribution.
Well, we had about shifts of 6 per shift per shelter, doing between an 8 and a 12-hour shift. So we're going to 2 to 3 shifts of 6 people. We're going to 18 to 20 people per shelter per day. So you had 6 shelters. That's 120 people, volunteers. And you can't have the same one. So you're looking at between 200 and 250 volunteers going on shifts at any given time.
What kind of reward do these amazing volunteers get for just to venture out in 8-degree weather?
I mean, that truly is the part that really inspires me. It's about the Red Cross, is the volunteers, because it truly is a volunteer organization. 90+% of our workforce are volunteers, and they're doing it from the goodness of their heart. They're willing. Their desire and willingness and ability to help and want to help. We have fires. In addition to all the warming shelters and the shelters we had set up, we were still responding to fires in the middle of the night, 2 to 3 to 4 fires every night. And these are people getting out of the warmth of their bed and driving off in the middle of the night to help potentially in dangerous situations, in dangerous conditions, to help people they've never met. And it's like, it's kind of hard to not be moved by that and be inspired by that, because that truly is what makes it happen. And a pat on the back, a thank you, is pretty much what they get.
It's one of the amazing things about this whole emergency situation was how people helped other people, strangers, and everybody talked to everybody. I know when we took our computers to Panera Bread and waited for a plug so that we could get into the internet, everybody had a story to tell. Everybody was helpful. People were saying, oh, I can help you get into the Panera Bread website, because it's not an easy thing to do, you know. And people were really very helpful. And even the managers at the Panera Bread, they were carrying trays for people, because people would come in and they've got, you know, all kinds of equipment with them that they're setting up. They ordered stuff. They didn't have time even to go back and pick up the food. And the help they don't usually deliver food to tables, but they were doing that also. It's just been amazing to see.
Well, the Red Cross, that's one of the things we try to instill. It's like the Red Cross can't be everywhere for everybody all the time. We try to develop a resilient communities. That's part of what we do. And part of being resilient is being prepared. So the recovery time is shorter. That people know what to do and they can help each other out. That it's a group effort. It's not just the Red Cross. It's not just the government. It's not just whoever. It's everyone looking out for each other. That's really the ultimate goal. The Red Cross obviously plays a big role in that, but it can't be everywhere to everybody. So that's why we're out there year-round, not just in times of disaster, but in year-round, trying to get that message out, to be prepared, to be ready, to be helpful. Here's what you should do. Here's where you should go. Those kinds of things.
How much money does the Red Cross need in order to mount a massive rescue operation like the one they just mounted?
Well, this was a little bit different. It wasn't a huge financial burden. I mean, it's hard to calculate the cost, because much of the cost was incurred over the course of the year. Our blankets and our cots.
Oh, I see.
In other words, so it wasn't a situation where we were putting people up in a hotel for 3 nights, or buying them food, because that was already being supplied. So it's kind of hard to put a hard dollar figure on it, because the costs are incurred year-round by the trucks replacing the cots. We have to replace all the blankets. We have to wash it. We have to train our volunteers, retrain them, recruit new volunteers, that sort of stuff. So it's not hard and fast costs often.
Well, your big fundraiser, the Red Ball, is coming up very shortly, Saturday, March 8th, at the Please Touch Museum. Let's put the phone number back up on the screen so people can call for tickets, because this is the fundraiser. 215-299-4000. Or you can look at the website, redcrossphilly.org. Tell us what happens at the Red Bull, which attracts, what do you get, like 1,000 people?
We get 1,000+ people, and it is a great time, great food. The signature part of all this is some of the best restaurants from around the city will come and prepare dishes for everyone to sample.
And they donate their food.
They donate their time. Everything is donated, and people can go from table to table, about 30+ restaurants, to go table to table, sampling different dishes, desserts. We got microbrewers there, so people can, some great craft beers from around the region. The Carousel House is open. People can
ride the carousel.
Unbelievable photo opportunity. Great pictures. People all dressed up. It's a black tie, red tie in many cases. A lot of people wear a red tie, a lot of red dresses. And we have great music, live music. We're going to have 3 musical acts. The main stage is going to be the CTO band. And the
CTO is fabulous.
They're phenomenal. The Carousel House is going to have Gerald Beasley, who's a jazz musician. And downstairs this year, we're going to have dueling pianos, where they're going to be playing just great hits.
Dueling pianos, I love it.
All night long.
I love it.
And the food down there is going to be Catelli Duo, which is a great Italian place in South Jersey. So it is for foodies and for people who have music and who love getting dressed up. This is the event of the year.
Well, for people watchers, it's a joy. And you get politicians. You'll get a lot of politicians this year, because it's a major election year with so many people running for Congress, so many people running for the nomination for governor, state legislature. There are a lot of people that will want to shake hands with the public.
And for people who are fans of the show, Kelsey Nixon, she runs on the Cooking Channel, has a TV show. She's going to be there. helping us judge, because people can vote on their favorite restaurants. So they get a token when they come in and they vote. So we give a big award, big trophy to the winner of the best restaurant at the Red Ball. And all the money goes to the Red Cross and Red Cross House Disaster Relief Fund, and that helps support the shelter efforts that we did this past ice storm, helps people who have been burned out of their homes in a fire go in the middle of the night and say, hey, here's 3 nights in a hotel, here's money for food, here's clothes for you to get through, because usually in a fire they lose everything.
They lose everything.
So we help them get back on their feet that way too.
One of the outstanding displays that you have every year at the Red Bull is there's a cake maker that's like the cake boss. I mean, I've never seen such gorgeous cakes in different shapes, you know, animals and buildings, and they're just fabulous.
Oh, the desserts are crazy. I mean, if you go, you need to make sure you leave room for cake.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
the desserts are unbelievable. They are so good, and it's like, if you ate them all, you would be rolling out of there. But it's really a fun event.
And you say over 1,000 people, but because it's in the Please Touch Museum, it's not crowded.
Oh, not at
I
all.
mean, they're so spread out. They've got so much room there.
Yep. And you get to play on the exhibits. You get to see upstairs and the downstairs. The downstairs is the VIP room. The upstairs, you can go to the SEPTA bus they have there. They have all the kids' exhibits. You can free reign on those. The piano that reminds you of the movie Big, that's there. You can play on that. I mean, all the stuff that you can play on when you're a kid, you get to be as a grown-up. And
Alice in Wonderland, I love that. Going down to the lower level, you go through Wonderland.
Yeah, it's a great night. I always say it's a lot of hard work for me because I don't get to have the fun that everyone else does, but it's still kind of fun for me too. And
how much money do you raise at the Red Bull?
We're shooting for, we're looking for $500,000. That's a big goal, and we're not sure we're going to reach that, but we're hopeful. We made $400,000 last year. So we're really pushing the envelope a little bit, but ticket sales and sponsorships are really the how we make that happen.
That's fantastic.
And there's a great silent auction. There'll be a lot of great prizes. There'll be getaways. There's tickets to concerts and Phillies and Sixers and Flyers games and Eagles games are all going to be part of it. So if people are interested in have that night free, I would strongly encourage them to consider going.
March 8th, it is a fun time. I've been to a lot of them, and it really is fun. So March 8th, buy your tickets. How much are tickets?
Well, they vary. They're $385 for a VIP and $285, or yeah, $385 for $285 for the main event.
Okay.
And again, all the money goes to the Red Cross.
But it's like the fanciest dinner you could have, the best desserts, rubbing elbows with VIPs. You can't take 2 steps without bumping into somebody who's really important, and a lot of TV personalities. You've got a lot of, and you'll see Dave Schrader there. And
that's always a highlight. Everyone goes, oh, no, but
I had my picture taken with Dave Schrader.
It's always a highlight. Everyone always says. But seriously, it's a great time, and dancing is great dancing, and the place looks beautiful. The photo opportunities are just amazing.
One thing that people may not know is that even though Dave Schrader works for the Red Cross in southeastern Pennsylvania, if they need him to go to some flood-stricken place in the south, or some place been decimated by a hurricane, or what happened during Hurricane Sandy?
I was deployed a couple different times, back and forth to New Jersey. But I've been to places like Joplin, Missouri after the big tornado there. I was actually, my most recent deployment was to Prescott, Arizona, where the firefighters died, putting out that wildfire.
Oh, 19 firefighters.
I was deployed to handle media requests for that. And I've been to a couple other tornado and hurricane scenes. And that's, it's a rewarding part of my job too. But that's a job where I get the call, I got to be on a plane in 6 hours. So it's one of those deals where you drop everything and go, and you sort of prepare your family and your kids, and you sort of have your own personal go kit sort of deal, and you sort of say, all right,
you have a suitcase ready?
I'm ready to go. And there's certain times of the year I have to be willing to do that. So that's how that works. But my family's very understanding, and it works out well, and I enjoy that part of the job as well.
Prescott, Arizona. They're all volunteer firefighters. 19, like a whole village was wiped out. It is just unbelievable.
Yeah, and the town, I mean, the people there are amazing. They're very resilient. But we went through a couple memorial services, and the Red Cross would support those events, and it was sort of one of those deals where it's like they were the pride and joy of the town. You know, they just great sense of joy and pride about who those people were, and it was a pretty sad time. But they were resilient. They were handling as best you could possibly imagine.
Unbelievable. It's like wiping out a generation.
Yeah.
When you get 19, young men, middle-aged men, all with families. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. So what are you looking forward to for the next few years with the Red Cross?
Well, there's always new adventures. I mean, part of my job is the website and the social media and sort of being in on those. And the Red Cross as an organization is very forward-thinking. We're very progressive when it comes to the technology. We're forerunners in emergency management, using Twitter and Facebook to get the message out about emergencies and how to prepare. We have great apps for people to download to their phone to teach them what to do in a hurricane, in a fire, and first aid. So I like being a part of that. That's exciting, and there are always innovative new ways that things are doing. Those are the kind of things I look forward to. And it's one of those deals where, unfortunately, sometimes the most exciting part of my job when something bad is happening. So I have to temper it's like, I want nothing bad to happen, but my job is not nearly as exciting when that's the case. So it's one of those deals where I have to find other ways. So we're working on a documentary about the Red Cross and Red Cross House that we have. Trying to do new things with the website and things like that.
Where's Red Cross House located?
Red Cross House is at 40th and Powelton in University City. It's about a block north of Market Street, right off 40th.
In University of Pennsylvania neighborhood.
Yeah, near Presbyterian Hospital. And it's basically a place people can go who can stay there longer term. Most people found we needed just 3 nights in a hotel, and that's pretty much it. But this is for folks who have to burn out of their house, and they stay there until they can find another place. And it's they get their own room. It's like a hotel. We run it like a hotel. They get their own room, their own bathroom. They have a kitchenette, and we have caseworkers that walk them through the process of recovery after a disaster. And they're usually out of there within 21 days into a new place. We help them find an apartment. In some cases, we'll pay their first month's rent. If that's the difference between getting out and not getting out, we'll cover their expenses for the first month's rent.
Now, how many people does the Red Cross House accommodate?
It can capacity 150 people. We have 26 suites that can sleep up to 5. It never works because we have every family stay together, and so there's a family of 2. They're not in a room with another family. Right. So it's only 2 people. It's only 2 people. So we never actually hit the threshold, but we theoretically could accommodate that many people. So it's full. All the rooms full about 30% of the time. We're usually about 80% capacity on average during the winter, which is our busy time.
Okay. Well, Saturday, March 8th, we want everybody to go to the Please Touch Museum, buy a ticket for the Red Cross Ball. We'll put those phone numbers and the website up one more time, redcrossphilly.org, 215-299-4000, and you'll be doing a really good deed, and you'll know that the money's being used wisely by people like Judge Renee Hughes and Dave Schrader. Thank you, Dave. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me.